Hi, my name is Amanda, and I wanted to share my pregnancy journey with everyone and get some shared experiences out there. So, I'll start at the beginning, and I'll likely have multiple parts to this post. But I was on the Mirena IUD, and I didn't have a period at all with the Mirena. So in about mid-May of 2019, I started bleeding, and it was accompanied with some cramping as well. Extreme fatigue. I'd get home from work and just sit down, and I could literally just fall asleep the moment I sat down. And aside from those symptoms, I was also feeling nauseous and had extreme tenderness with the breasts. So I called my doctor about a day after the bleeding started because I just wanted to see if it was something that would stop. And my doctor said that everything was normal, that, once the Mirena starts tapering off with the hormones, a lot of women start to get their period back. And at that point, I was due to get the Mirena replaced in just a couple months. I was going to hit the 5-year mark. So I thought, okay, well, I have my period now. So I'll give it kind of that time frame of what my typical period looked like before I had the Mirena. So I let the bleeding go for 10 days before contacting my doctor again. And my doctor just decided to prescribe over the phone some additional birth control, a low progesterone birth control, and recommended ibuprofen every 6 hours to help with the bleeding. So I go through a full course of this low progesterone birth control. So by the time I finished that course, I've had these symptoms for about 6 weeks at this point. And I had been contacting my doctor. He never once told me to come into the office, didn't recommend any pregnancy tests or anything. So I just finally got fed up trying to contact my OB doctor, and I went to urgent care to get some blood work done, thinking maybe I'm anemic or something. So, again, this is about 6 weeks from the symptoms the start of all the symptoms. And I went to urgent care, explained all of the symptoms that I was experiencing, and the doctor recommended doing a pregnancy test. And I explained to her that I had been talking with my OB for weeks, and he wasn't concerned about a pregnancy or anything. But she said, let's just do a pregnancy test to rule that out. So just within minutes, it felt like the doctor came back with my blood work results and the pregnancy test results. And she just started off by saying, your blood work looks great, you're not anemic, but you are pregnant. And I couldn't believe it. So I just looked at the doctor and I said, no, I can't be pregnant. And she looked at me and said the test was very positive. And so she recommended going to the ER right away because the risk of having an ectopic pregnancy with an IUD was quite high, and she just wanted them to do an ultrasound and see where the embryo had implanted. So I contacted my husband, who was at work, and he didn't answer. So I decided to text him with what was going on and see if he could meet me at our house to then drive me to the emergency room. And I texted him that I was pregnant. So he calls back within 3 seconds of receiving my text message. And when I answer, he's he could tell that something was wrong. I was crying, and he says, "Why are you crying?" And I just was like, "Well, I'm pregnant." And he said that he thought I was joking in the text message. So once he realized that I was serious, he got off from work and took me over to the emergency room, where we had a lot of waiting to do, and met with doctors over there who explained the potential that I could have an ectopic pregnancy, and what the procedures would look like if that were the case. So finally we get into the ultrasound room, and the tech is looking at like my fallopian tubes, my ovaries. She's just looking at all of my anatomy to make sure everything looks good. And she turns the monitor and shows us that the embryo implanted in my uterus. So it's a viable pregnancy, and I find out that I was 7 weeks and 4 days pregnant at this time. So I then had to schedule an appointment with my OB's office. My main OB was not in the office the following week. So I scheduled it with the on-call doctor for the following Monday, since this all happened over a weekend. And she made room for me on her schedule first thing that Monday. And they wanted to be able to attempt to get the IUD out because there are less complications involved with the pregnancy if they could remove the IUD in the beginning. So that Monday I show up for that appointment to get the IUD removed, and at this point my uterus had grown so much that it had pulled the IUD up, making it not reachable. So I had to make the decision whether to move forward with this pregnancy or not. And even though it wasn't planned, it was something that I felt like I was given this baby for a reason, and I wanted to follow through with this pregnancy. The doctor did warn me about the pregnancy being high risk, and so I wasn't sure exactly what high risk would look like, but I decided to continue with the pregnancy. And so, I was just kind of hoping that, if anything was going to happen, it would happen before 12 weeks, if I was going to miscarry or anything like that. And so I'll post another video about the rest of my journey, but I just wanted to get this initial post out there with my experience getting pregnant on the Mirena. Thanks.